board marked and added in votes counted separately. Here's the sum.
Should the word result be plural? The tabulators hand counted the ballots and recorded the results
Yeah, okay,
on
I like
separate
that.
tally sheets.
I like that. Based on careful reconciliation of the physical ballots with the poll books and absentee ballots with certificates, and for some units, the election night tapes, the board found no evidence of tampering with the ballot bags. And that was the purpose of all the comments about the ballot bags. Then we move to the direct recording, electronic, touchscreen voting equipment. The board verified the voting equipment's tamper evidence serial number seal written on the inspector statement contains the chief inspector's initials for pre-election and post-election verification. The board reviewed the vote totals generated by DRE at the polling place. Tabulators hand counted the permanent paper record of votes generated by DRE and recorded the results on duplicate, see we had plural there, results on duplicate tally sheets. DRE generated votes were added into the hand count for reporting unit, for the reporting unit and reconciled. Optical scan voting equipment, the Insight machine. For reporting units using optical scan voting machines, the tabulators reconciled the poll list and hand counted the number of physical ballots. Ballots were manually screened for marks that may not be correctly recorded by the machine. Screened ballots were referred to the board for determination of voter intent and hand counting. The board
counted.
Hand counted.
And were hand counted?
And
Okay. The board verified the equipment's tamper evidence serial number seal written on the inspector statement contains the chief inspector's initials for pre and post-election verification. The automatic tabulator was tested using a test deck of ballots. The ballots were fed by hand into the automatic tabulator. Votes counted separately were added in and the canvass statement prepared. The above procedure was followed for municipalities using central count absentee voting. Spoiled ballots. A candidate's representative voiced a concern. A candidate's representatives, and it's both plural, but no, singular and plural. The candidate was one candidate, but they had two representatives.
right.
The board removed the contents of the spoiled ballot envelope for each reporting unit and displayed the ballot pieces. And that's all it's saying about that.
You omitted the rest.
Right.
Good.
The board found only 2 reporting units where the remade ballot envelope was inside the ballot bags. The board also found that poll workers often failed to document with a serial number and failed to record the reason for the remade ballot on the inspector's statement. In addition, the duplicate remade ballot was not marked, right? Not marked, and that, Deb, you pointed that out in the last time when you looked it over.
It must have just not captured
Not
that.
captured it, yeah.
Now, let's go through that again.
Okay.
Because the remade ballot is supposed to be indicated on the original that you remake the ballot. It's the only place.
The serial number should say original remade ballot number 1,
Right.
remade ballot number, or duplicate
Duplicate ballot.
remade ballot number
On the
1.
on the ballot.
On the ballot itself.
I thought
So
it was
it-
only.
Yeah, so at the end, when you're doing the recount, you have the original ballot and you lay the duplicate one next to it and verify that they made it correctly. And so in many cases, what we found were an envelope of remade ballots in the materials, but not in the ballot bag, because the original remade ballot is a live ballot.
Okay, I'd like to know where that says makes that statement
Okay,
in the statutes.
okay.
That you have to, I thought a remade ballot, you remake the ballot and you identify it on the original ballot, say remade.
Yes.
But the new ballot does not have a statement on it.
That's not true.
Because if you're on a recount, you couldn't verify
You
that.
can't but also your voter will be identified.
No.
No, it's
No,
not a voter
because
number,
the-
it's not
the
the voter
The
number.
voter
Voter
number
number.
isn't on there. The only time you use a voter number is in the central count absentee
Okay,
and in a challenged ballot. Those are the only, but this is a serial number, which means that this is the first time I remade a ballot, so that's
And
number,
that's
ballot number
number,
one. So you never associate them with the voter. But I will tell you that when I went through some of our exhibits, the poll workers were putting down voter numbers.
And they shouldn't have.
And they should not have. And I took photos of those, and I'm gonna turn those over to the GAB.
okay.
Just so that they're aware that that process is happening and it should.
Is out there,
Should be.
yeah.
It's out there,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and unless you identify the duplicate,
You
you
can't,
can't match it up
Mhm.
with, on a recount, to say that poll worker remade that ballot correctly for that one election and all the other elections that were on all the other candidates that were on the ballot. So that's why we put that in there. And that's why
And we're also acknowledging that the municipalities are not doing a good job of
Informing their workers of this situation.
yeah,
yes.
right, that's where we,
It was really hit and miss when we went through those reporting units as to whether or not they were documenting anything.
for instance.
Inspector statements
right.
were missing a lot of information.
And I still would like to see this referenced in the.
I will,
Well,
I
here's-
need to.
Statutes.
Here's the first sentence too, is also a comment. The board found only 2 recording units where the remade ballot envelope was inside the ballot bag. They're supposed to be inside the ballot bag.
That's the part I'd like to know.
And I know for certain that the inspectors are instructed to put them in the ballot bag in the instructions on the inspector statement,
Okay.
where they're instructed to document the remade ballots, and then they're told to put the original ballots in the ballot bag,
Okay.
right on the inspector statement. So I'll find that.
That's-
those
Maybe when
notes
I'm
for you.
making the corrections, you
Yeah.
could do
Yeah.
that.
And I think the purpose of this document, it saves someone who wants to look at that situation, rather than going through the minutes on each and every,
Right.
finding that the board made. And it's one of the reasons it took a lot of time.
We were thorough.
Right, down at the next paragraph also, here's where the conclusion is. The board found in 100% of the reporting units where the proper procedure was followed, the duplicate remade ballots matched the originals. The board found no fraud or conspiracy with the failure to document properly. In other words, our conclusion is that when 100% of the time we found that they were made correctly, we could not come to the conclusion that where the procedure was not followed, we couldn't find them, that they were made incorrectly,
Right.
so. Okay. Let me see who's calling me here. Probably Judge Snyder from downstairs. Okay. So, then the paragraph, ballots lacking initials. Challenges were made to regular ballots and absentee ballots lacking initials. The board took testimony from municipal clerks with respect to these omissions. The board reviewed the ballots separately and made a record. The board consistently counted ballots not properly initialed because of human error. Here's the conclusion and the acknowledgments, okay? The purpose of the election statutes and regulations of the Government Accountability Board in a recount is to ascertain voter intent. The law disfavors disenfranchising voters, and the law should be liberally construed. The primary responsibility for ascertaining voter intent rests with the elections officials who take oaths to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, from municipal clerks to the poll workers to the tabulators to the Board of Canvass. The Waukesha County Board of Canvass took great care and pains in fulfilling their responsibility of ascertaining voter intent for the Supreme Court election of April 5th, 2011. All aspects and materials in the recount were open to observation. All challenges and concerns of candidates' representatives were heard. Each reporting unit's results were openly reconciled. The reconciliations made from the election materials and ballots showed the recount results closely matched the election night results reported from the polling places, as well as the results of the original canvass. The board concludes that there were no violations of the election statutes. There were cases where there was a drawdown and cases where votes were added, but the count differences were not significant and did not affect the outcome. The board concludes there were no ballots removed from ballot bags, no ballots added to bags, no intent to defraud, no intent to damage ballots or election materials. Any clerical or procedural failure that the board uncovered did not affect the outcome. In conclusion, the board found that the intent of the voters in Waukesha County, both individually and collectively, for each candidate was revealed in the original canvass and confirmed by this recount. The number of votes cast for the office of Justice of Supreme Court was 125,182. David Prosser Jr. received 92,331 votes. Joanne Klopfenberg received 32,770 votes, and there were 74 votes called scattering.
We'll just make a notation here and make sure that Joanne, if she had a middle initial on the ballot, we'll look at one of the ballots that we have in the other room.
I know,
Did
yeah.
we put that initial in there? I think it was, but I just want to make sure that as long as we're doing that, and because we've gone all the way to the point of Prosser Jr. So.
It's been a while, but I think that there was an initial on the ballot. The acknowledgements. The board members wish to express their appreciation to the people who, to the people who and that too, who assisted in the recount. All the volunteer tabulators, Mary Shubkowski, Barb Schwellinger, Patricia Madden, Deputy County Clerk Kelly Yeager, and the staff from the County Clerk's Office. Corporation Counsel Thomas Farley, Principal Assistants Danny Caldwell and Deborah Price, Chief of Staff for the County Executive Ellen Nowak, and Shirlene Hazelberg from the County Executive's Office for assistance in preparation of the minutes. The board especially wishes to thank Barbara Hanson, Certified Elections Report Administrator, Registration Administrator, okay, CERA, for her tireless service and guidance. Thank you, Barb.
That's nice, thank you.
And then the Waukesha County Board of Canvass reconvened on June 27, 2011 for a purpose of approving these minutes. The minutes of the Waukesha County Board of Canvass are hereby approved and will be transmitted to the Government Accountability Board for the state of Wisconsin and the representatives of each candidate for the office of Justice of Supreme Court. The board hereby returns to the county clerk all the exhibits marked by the board as well as any materials used by the board. The clerk shall retain or dispose of them according to Wisconsin law and any directives of the Government Accountability Board. Okay, so with those corrections, did we capture what we wanted to?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we made history.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did too.
Yeah.
Should I go make those corrections
Yeah,
and
no, we'll
then
just
make
sign.
that copy for your
Right.
signature? Okay, just give me a minute to do
As
that.
long as she's going to do that, do any of you sign with your little initials that we should add that to the last
I
page?
don't have to, yeah.
I usually use middle initial, but it isn't necessary.
I never use my middle initial.
I only use one when I write a check, so forget
It's okay,
this.
so-
Forget this one.
I'll be back.
I'll go look at the ballot,
Okay.
Oh, for the initial?
the
Okay.
initial.
I was,
That's so you can see better with the...
No, the microphone is on the top,
Oh,
and